Millionaire. Yep.
Welcome to the Age of Fission radio show with your host, Lonnie Clark. We stand together and accept that we now live in a world transformed by Fukushima. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time here on UCY.TV radio. We relentlessly engage every ear that listens. We expose and confront the complete lack of accountability for the nuclear industry. Consider social engineering programs who view our bodies, minds, and souls as assets on a balance sheet. We discuss vital current issues, interview activists, and engage our audience in an effort to allow all voices to be heard. The Age of Vision radio show creates a venue that all will choose. We encourage our listeners to reclaim their power and their courage to take action and save our planet from the ravages of greed and indifference. Our actions matter. Every voice matters. We remind our listeners that happiness is resistance. Love is greater than fear.
Good morning, UCY.TV radio listeners. This is Lonnie Clark with the Age of Fission radio show. Thank you for joining us today. Today is Monday, May 23rd, 2016, and boy, how the time is flying. I want to thank you again for bearing with us on Friday. We had quite a bit of difficulties, technical difficulties, so I really appreciate you hanging in there with us. This morning it is Monday, and as you know, I devote Mondays to the issues of St. Louis and attempt to interview activists and citizens from St. Louis. This morning, I actually had the pleasure of interviewing a citizen from St. Louis who has actually moved away with her family. She's been a long-time resident near the Westlake landfill. Her name is Ashlee Plume. I saw her on the Westlake landfill, said something about them moving. She's the first person I've actually seen who said that they were actually moving. I've had many people say we're thinking about it, but no one's actually really moved because of this issue. So I contacted her, and she has agreed to speak with us here on the radio and share her story and the things that have happened with her. So without further ado, Ashlee, welcome to the show. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, first, let me review this. You have actually lived near the Westlake landfill for how long, and how far away were you?
I've lived in the area for my whole life, which I'm 28 years old, so in and out for 28 years around Bridgeton and Maryland Heights.
Okay.
So I've been there quite a while.
For those of us who are not familiar with St. Louis, Bridgeton and Maryland Heights, is this near the Westlake landfill or we hear about two sites here, so we're trying to get some geographical understanding going on. I know I saw you, I think we talked about this on the Westlake landfill. That's where you had posted something, but you're actually closer to Coldwater Creek or the Westlake landfill?
The Westlake landfill.
Okay. And you guys, when did you and your husband find out about what's going on over there?
It has been, I want to say, about a year and a half. We've been kind of watching it off and on. For the past at least almost a year now, we've been working towards getting out of the area. But we've known about it for a year and a half, maybe 2 years, and we've just been monitoring the situation.
So you didn't know about it when the fire started about 5 years ago? You were unaware of it?
We were unaware. That's correct.
Wow. And so this is kind of shocking to me that your community, you've lived there most of your life, and nobody there. How did you hear about it? What brought you up to speed on this?
Actually, I was working a different job in Maryland Heights, and we were smelling the landfill.
Mm-hmm.
And a friend actually was posting the information on Facebook. Otherwise, I would have never heard about it. She was sharing the information on what was causing the smell, so everybody was starting to notice. And that's actually the only way I found out, was something that one person had shared on Facebook.
Wow. Were you shocked to learn that there was nuclear radioactive waste near you?
I was. I had gone to high school there at Pattonville, which is 3-ish aerial miles from landfill. And considering I'd lived there for so long, I had no idea. So I was pretty shocked when we found out, and I was really worried because I have 3 children. So
how old are your children, if you don't mind me asking?
I have a 10-year-old, I have a 5-year-old, and I now have a 7-month-old baby.
Oh, wow. Congratulations. That sounds really sweet. So
thank you.
That's really cute. And so you're working and you have a baby. So you're a working mom with 3 children, and you just moved.
Yes.
So all the more thanks to you for being willing to be on the radio this morning. I know what that's like, moving and working. It's just completely insane. So when you and your husband started talking about, this is getting really serious, maybe we've got to move, when you found out, I mean, you found out pretty late after the fact, mostly because this, Republic has made a point of not letting anybody really know about it. I mean, there's been a consistent pattern of getting the news stations to underplay the severity of this. So when you guys started to take this very seriously, what did your neighbors think? I mean, what did your friends say and your neighbors? Because obviously all the people near you are still living there, correct?
Right. Like family and close friends, they kind of just brushed it off. They thought, they're just overreacting. Everybody, the EPA, everybody's saying it's okay. They've done tests, they've done this. They're not, they think that the EPA is looking out for their best interest, and that's not true at all.
Wow.
So they thought that we were overreacting.
Really? So they think you're being irrational. How far away did you live from the Westlake landfill?
About 3.5 aerial miles from it.
Wow. You were very, very close. I mean, honestly, congratulations for being rational. I mean, that's really what it takes, is rational thought for people to,
right.
How long did it take for you guys to find out about this and say, maybe we should be moving?
It started getting really serious when they were saying the fire was closer than what they suspected, and people were really getting freaked out when they started coming down to, we have 6 months, something needs to be done. I was working on qualifying for buy house so that we could get out of there. It really struck home when the school district started sending home letters saying that they had an evacuation plan in place. So that was the last straw for me.
They had an evacuation plan.
Yeah.
So did the school district, does nobody at the school district even talk to anybody there, like the nurses there, about the potential danger of living next to this? I mean, because it is compounded by the nuclear pollution, but this fuse wrap site, that's just as dangerous. That stuff is burning, and it can cause... Does the EPA ever discuss that with the residents as they're talking about it? It's not just nuclear, it's these other toxins might be harmful. Do they ever bring anything else into it?
No, not that I'm aware. I haven't heard anything. I know the school has done a good job of keeping parents informed and doing what they can to try and help the situation, but they can only do so much, and they issued an evacuation plan and also like a shelter-in-place plan.
Wow.
Which was really concerning because they didn't have a place where they'd be evacuating our children. So our hands as parents would be tied, not knowing where our children would be taken. We wouldn't be able to get to them.
Oh my goodness.
That was the last straw for me, and we decided to get out of Dodge, basically. Just leave.
Well, let me ask you this, because you have a 10-year-old who had to bring home these documents. How does your child feel about, I mean, he's old enough to really kind of know, what does he, I mean, that must be difficult for you as a parent, having to console him. This must be concerning for him. He brings him this paper from the school, and you're like, what the heck? You know what I mean? Like about that.
Yeah, he doesn't talk much about it. He does mention that it smells, because we can smell it, and we try not to talk too much about it in front of him so that he doesn't get very scared, but he does notice the smell.
How did the school handle it with the kids? I mean, did they tell them what it was, or they just said, this is a plan for an emergency, and they don't even discuss it? I mean, that must be very terrifying for the school administrators to have to just buck up and teach these children every day, understanding what they're being exposed to.
I think some of the schools have trained their teachers in the evacuation plan. I'm not 100% sure that Pattonville went through a drill, which Pattonville is the school district my son went to. But they sent home and letters and emails. I don't think it was really discussed with the children. It was more for parental informational purposes.
Thank God, yeah.
But, yeah. So as far as I know, he kind of isn't too aware of the situation.
That's good.
So, yeah, I was glad that he was left a little uninformed. I didn't want him to panic. He's a very nervous child. So we just got him out of there as fast as we could, and now he'll be going to a different school district an hour away, which as a parent is hard, but that's what needed to happen for his health.
Yeah. So all of your 3 children have no disabilities, you don't see anything directly related to having lived there. Your children are all fine.
They are fine. My oldest son has asthma, but he was a preemie, so his lung development wasn't the best. So that's kind of unrelated, but the smell doesn't help him.
Well, not just that. It's not just the smell. It's the pollution in the smell. So, be curious. I can't wait to talk to you in a month, because you just moved this weekend, correct?
Yes.
So in 1 month from now, you should be, if you're going to see a difference in his physical condition, you should see it in the next few weeks, because you guys have now moved away for the first time since this thing's been on fire in 5 years.
Right.
So that will actually that's a huge blessing in disguise. So I can't wait to talk to you to see how much of a response his asthma is cut back. But my guess would be you'll see some type of an improvement.
Oh, I'm certainly hoping so. And even if we don't, it's still peace of mind knowing that it's not going to get worse at this point. So
if you don't mind, would you take me through the processes, like how you guys, when you found out about it, and then the process, how you went from A to B of finding out about it to all of a sudden you're living 50, 60 miles away now?
Yes. It's just started with a Facebook post and the smell in the air. We started kind of wondering what is the smell? What is going on? And the more I looked on Facebook, I saw one friend posting this information, and it seemed scary. So I inquired about it, and I kept watching the page. She added me to the page, the Westlake landfill page, and the more information that was popping up, the more I started to look into it. At first, I believed when the EPA came out and said, no, it's okay. I kind of let it go for a little bit, but the more I kept watching, just kind of sitting back and watching these posts and the moms and all their work, the scarier and scarier it got as we went along. And then it boiled down to, we have 6 months, something has to be done. Schools are sending home letters. Citizens are picketing and panicking, and so we had to make a decision because we needed to buy a house, and I didn't want to spend another 30 years locked into a home in this area, knowing that I was putting my children at risk. So we decided that when we moved, it was going to be far away.
Okay. So you had not actually bought a house prior to buying this house that you moved. So this was like your first getting into the house. I think
correct. We live with family.
That's kind of an easier thing. This is one time when being a renter is a much easier way to manage this, because that's a huge consideration. I've noticed among the conversations I've had, people want to move away, but our homes are our largest investment, so you can't just walk away from your house. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's a very, and then on top of that, the sense of obligation. You don't want to sell your house to somebody and then have to downplay the smell and pretend like you don't know. I mean, it's just,
Right.
the conversations I've had surrounding that is a very difficult challenge for people. So in this
Yeah.
regard, it helped you and your husband that you guys are young and you're just now getting your house together and you've made a decision. So in a way, it's
Yeah.
awesome. Congratulations. It's a really awesome opportunity
Thank you.
to move quite a bit of ways. Now tell me this,
Yeah.
how did your parents feel and your family, your best friends and things like that? Like, anybody support you in any of this? Did they think that was a great idea that you guys should be moving?
A few of them, like the ones that follow the Westlake landfill page, and they kind of are in the know about the situation. They do support it. My family supported my purchase of a home, but they were not thrilled that I was moving such a distance.
So now your family, though, that brings up that issue of your family. They're still there. Did they not take it that serious? I mean, how do they manage this?
Mm-mm.
Because I find it interesting that not everybody in your neighborhood knows about it or is just as concerned. When you said, well, they're just not that concerned. Do they?
Yeah, no, they don't. They just plan to stay. We were living with my mother and father-in-law, and they have no interest in leaving. They don't think that it's a big deal. Is what I'm getting from them, the feeling I'm getting from them. They didn't think that us moving was necessary that far away. They don't plan to leave. They just kind of shrug it off whenever I bring up the smell, because we're always complaining about it. 'Cause you step out the door and it hits you like a wall. But they just shrug it off. They just don't think it's a big deal, and it's shocking to me because it really is a big deal.
And they basically just say that if it was that important, the government would tell us. Is that kind of their attitude?
Yeah, that's their mindset basically, and it's just not true. You can't trust what they're telling you because obviously they've been covering it up for so long.
Yeah, I mean, but even in this case of that, like if you guys really think about it, I mean, look what happened in Flint. I mean, the government literally told the governor of the state and certain people that everything was fine. The EPA just shook their head and said, "Don't worry about it." And the water, the difference between Flint, Michigan, and the Westlake landfill area is that the water comes out looking brown in Flint. That's about it. That's really it. And in fact, I think that the danger is higher at the Westlake landfill because you guys have to also deal with the air. It's not just the water. In Flint, it was only the water got affected. But, we have many water issues throughout this country. Water's been highly neglected. This is not, that's kind of not news, which is why I think that they were able to shrug it off. But with this the nuclear pollution is something that is just completely denied. Now, how far is your job from the Westlake landfill?
It takes me about a half hour to drive here, so it's a good enough distance that you can't smell it or anything, so it's a lot more comfortable.
So this is the amazing thing. So for those of us that are on the outside, and I'm sort of relentless about St. Louis because I really believe that St. Louis is a reflection of the rest of America. We don't live there, but actually we are St. Louis. It's what's going on with you guys is happening in many communities and could be happening lots of places. We have a lot of nuclear pollution. I mean, for example, the San Onofre nuclear power plant that was closed down 2 years ago, the Navy will not take the land back because they say it's too radioactive. Now, that's right off the 405 freeway where thousands of millions of cars go every year, but the Navy's not going to take it back. So what's that telling us? They're not telling anybody that the land's radioactive. They're all driving past radioactive land every single day, millions of people. So it's, we kind of have to now, in terms of activism and being engaged with your elected officials, are either you or your husbands, do you guys participate in any of that? Do you get actively engaged in putting pressure on these people to help your communities?
I have. I've signed some petitions. We've written some letters, some emails, sent some things out. He doesn't so much, but I've been the one that's been on top of it. He just kind of sit back and let me kind of do my thing. But we have signed some things and mailed some things and emailed some things, but we never, hear anything back from them or anything.
I mean, that is kind of the shocking thing, isn't it, Ashlee? It's like we keep jumping up and down, and they're like, ho hum, somebody's knocking at the door, like it's
just dragging feet. Yeah.
They act as if, I was reading the Westlake landfill page this morning in the event that something happened, because I saw on the Westlake landfill page that you were moving this weekend, so I thought, maybe you might not make the phone call this morning with me because you moved. So I was really just stunned at the way Republic Services is now saying, no problem with the radioactive waste. Yes, it's here, but it's just not a problem. That's unconscionable. That should be illegal for them to be able to say that.
You would think.
And none of the elected officials ever counter that, do they? You don't hear from any of them. The mayor, the police department, they all just click their heels and say Sig Heil. So, it's stunning. It's a stun. How does that make, when you and your husband are talking, how does that make you guys feel to recognize, because it can't help but break the community up, because there's, your friends and family who have stayed. It sort of puts you on the opposite side of the fence of the people who are staying, right? Because they're looking at you like you've moved away. In a way, you're telling them that they're living in a polluted area. And they,
it's mostly just them thinking that we're a little crazy for making the move and going away. They just think we're overreacting kids and we don't know what we're doing. And
wow.
So it kind of drives a wedge between you, but you do what you have to do to keep your kids safe, and unfortunately that's at the expense of not seeing friends or family. Then that's a sacrifice that has to be made, unfortunately.
Yeah, I could not agree with you more, because that is actually the truth. We have huge, that is what it's going to take. And unfortunately, I think for a lot of these people, they will understand when it's a little bit too late. This is the thing. And our government they're going to be, the EPA can only hold out for so long. But in the meantime, lots of people are getting sick. So this is really, Republic Services, there's an article that came out that Republic Services said there's nothing to worry about the nuclear pollution. The EPA is telling you that you're handling it, and yet every day, the smell, the stench, that's the driving factor, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. That's the only physical evidence you have that something's going wrong, and people just kind of shut their windows and ignore it, and you can't. It's hard. It's hard to ignore something that's just not literally at your door and at your window every time you walk out or open your window. You can't even enjoy your environment. And
what does it smell like? Can you describe the smell?
It smells like when sewage is,
ew,
I guess, backed up, and when a sewer is just smelling up your entire city, just backed up, and I can't even think of the word, but it smells like old sewage.
And it's not in like any one little tiny area. It's like the whole community smells like this?
It kind of depends on the direction of the wind that day. Literally, it depends on the direction of the wind and whether it's raining or there's so many different factors. We don't always smell it where I live, even though we're only 3 miles away. Where I lived, I should say. I keep forgetting I moved. But if the wind's blowing right, then it's literally woken me up in the middle of the night, and I had to shut my window because my room would just smell horrible, like a sewer, and it will wake you.
So you have to have heat. You have to have air conditioning to live there, because there's no possible way you could live there with your houses closed up.
No,
and they're not helping.
Tried.
Interestingly, is anybody at the Republic Services, is there any kind of a fund to help you guys pay for your electricity bills, because you have to live there? Does the EPA help you out with your electricity bills?
Not at all. No.
I mean, even if they're going to ask you to live there, I mean, in the summertime, your electricity bills must just skyrocket because you cannot open the windows in the heat. You have to have the air conditioning on all the time, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, that it makes it an expensive place to live when you have to have, especially in the summertime when you could actually enjoy the summer, the cool evenings of the summer evenings. You know what I mean? Yeah, you have your air conditioning on the end of the day, but you know, in that area in St. Louis, the evenings are really pleasant and beautiful. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, they can be, and that's the struggle is you want to open your window and sleep at night, but then you've got this smell seeping in and it wakes you up and you're forced to shut your window. It's just disgusting. And there's really no other way to put it.
Do your clothes, if you're outside, do your clothes smell, or is it just a smell that you smell in the air? I mean, like if you come in after being out, say 5 or 6 hours, you know, say you're going to go for a walk or spend the day at the park or something with your kids, do your clothes smell, or is it just that air, the air? It's
just the air from what I've noticed, because I don't spend enough time outside anymore for it to smell like. If it smells, if I walk out my door and I smell it, I walk right back in.
Now, did you allow your children to play outside?
Not when the smell was in our area. If you could not smell it in the house, then yeah, we would take the kids to the park. But as soon as you could smell it, windows shut, everybody's inside, you're locked in the house. And
wow.
It was really sad. My poor kids, I felt so bad for them. So this move was really needed for them to be children, not just for their health, but to live as children.
Yeah, so that they could actually play outside instead of having to stay inside all the time.
Right.
That's such an unconscionable thing. I mean, and so let me ask you this. I don't mean to be a little, I'm a little blown away by the men in St. Louis, that they do not actively, like we have this Moms of St. Louis. I kind of noticed that the men are sort of taking a back seat, and you just said that yourself. I mean, what is your husband's, you guys have obviously talked about this a lot. Mm-hmm. So he must agree with you quite a bit.
Yeah, he does agree. He didn't do any of the research. It was kind of me putting my foot down and saying, we have to go. This is what's happening here. So he agrees with me and he understands, but he was not actively pursuing any information.
And he still does not. He doesn't follow it.
Right.
He feels like you guys have just dealt with it, just moved on, dealt with that target, moved on to a different one, and now we're going to... So, and then what about the family like this? Now, does anybody that you know experience any type of negative, negative results from this, side effects like metallic taste in the mouth or thyroid nodes or things like that, where people that have gotten sick and it's being denied that it's caused by the rate. But, the metallic taste in the mouth, having thyroid nodes, having diabetes is another one. Mm-hmm. Sterilization is, there's a bunch of small things that they're not life-threatening, but they're kind of very annoying.
Yeah, we've noticed some people, they have some things like that, like my grandma was diabetic. My husband experienced a lot of nosebleeds. But us personally, as far as metallic taste or... Now,
how old is your husband?
He's my age. He's 28.
Yeah, so he's still a young man.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Well, the nosebleeds are an indication that you're being exposed to it. It doesn't mean that anything negative's happened to you, but it is an indication of having exposure. One of the things I did on my YouTube channel, which since I've started the radio show has gone sorely neglected because there's only so much of me to go around, but I have a YouTube channel, Nuts for Art. That's NUTZFORART. And I actually read Dr. John Goffman's books. He wrote 2 books, and he describes, a lot of what's happened here is since Dr. John Goffman and Dr. Arthur Tamplin were hired by the U.S. government, they were hired to find a solution for the nuclear pollution. They were hired to show that radiation just wasn't that harmful to the humans and that there might be something we could do with this waste, this pesky waste problem. And they after 3 or 4, I think it was 4.5 years, their studies came out and showed unequivocally exposure to anti-radiation is harmful. It's not good for us. There's no answer to the waste. Their suggestion to the government was this is an awesome source of energy, but until we can figure out how to manage the negative effects, we shouldn't be using it long term. So those two men were summarily ejected from the nuclear industry, had a hard time finding a job. I mean, and all of their work was really buried. But you could easily go and find John Goffman's books, or even go to Dr. Helen Caldicott's website, www.helencaldicott.com. She has written, and in fact, this might be very curious for you guys because you guys were exposed to thorium. She has a whole page and a whole section devoted to thorium. So that's, St. Louis, as it turns out, has the highest concentrations of thorium, I think, than most of the repositories around the world. The thorium level is quite high. So that's something that maybe you guys can do is check out the Helen Caldicott and educate yourself. I mean, that's the thing with your husband. I mean, I think partly people don't get active because they really believe our government is not going to neglect us.
Right.
I mean, that
unfortunately.
Yeah. And so how long did it take you to get to that point where you realized that they were not telling you the truth?
It took me, I would say, a good maybe year of paying attention to what was happening before I figured out that the government they didn't care. All the pleas were unanswered.
Did you go to any of the meetings for the Westlake landfill and meet with the EPA? Were you in any of those throngs of people that were there?
I did not go, but I would watch them when they would do the live feeds, but I was not in attendance at them. No.
Okay, so they did give you guys live feeds. See, these are so people at their homes could actually see the presentations without having to go there.
Correct, yes.
Interestingly enough, so you don't have to go out into the smelly environment. They made it easy for you to stay at home with your windows shut and doors locked, and don't worry about the smell outside, folks. We'll tell you all about it.
Pretty much.
Unconscionable. That's just so unconscionable. I mean, my hat's off to you. My hat is off to you. Now, I have to say I have a bunch of questions surrounding this whole idea about your moving. Mostly because of your friends and your family and all the people that you've had to leave, thinking that they are going to be okay, that it's not that big of a deal. Is that really what they think? That they've lived there all this many years, nobody's really sick, it's no big deal, and you're just getting freaked out because it's in the news?
Yeah, exactly. And they think that it's fear-mongering, is what they think it is, that it's no big deal, don't worry about it. They're making it out to be a bigger problem than it really is, and it's just no amount of talking to them is going to convince them otherwise.
Even the Coldwater Creek, you know how the people in the Coldwater Creek, they made those statistics and they sort of did those plot charts and all that stuff that they have, and showing all of that. None of that mattered. They thought that was just coincidental.
Correct. Yeah.
Wow.
They just don't even really listen. I mean, they'll kind of half-heartedly listen, and then you can tell they're just not even paying attention. They're just tuning you out, and they don't want to hear it. They don't care. They just think you're being ridiculous, and nothing we've said has convinced them otherwise, and it never will until it's too late, unfortunately. But we just had to suck it up and do what we felt was right, regardless of how they felt about it.
Wow. I'm proud of you for that. That's a very difficult position to be in. You know what I mean? That's a hard. Now, what about your husband's family? Did they feel the same way?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So on both sides of the family, there was nobody going, yeah, you got to get the kids out of here because, it's. Now, you grew up around there, though, right?
Yes.
But it was not on fire when you grew up around there. It's kind of like, yeah, it was buried. It wasn't like in the best possible thing, but the fact that it is, you've got this thing on fire spewing out the toxins. There's a gaping, leaking hole. That doesn't affect anybody there. They all think that the smell is just an inconvenient fact.
Right. That's the way they seem to play it off anyway. They don't even talk much about it. If the subject's brought up, they just, change the subject or something. They're just not, they don't even care to discuss it because they don't think it's enough of an issue to even bring up.
It's kind of like what if we were to talk about Fukushima. In other words, like, we in Fukushima we have a nuclear volcano going off for the last 5 years. You know what I mean? So if you talk about Fukushima to anybody, you get their eyes glazed over and they look at you like, really, you have to talk about it? You know what I mean?
Right.
That's probably the same response. See, for me, this is why on my radio show I say we have to talk about the social engineering, because I think we have been socially engineered, frankly, through Disney to accept the peaceful nuclear atom, which is the farthest thing from the truth. There is no peaceful nuclear atom. There is no good nuke in my view. Like, this whole industry needs to be shut down. It's caused so much more harm. Dr. John Goffman determined that they underreport the negative effects of radiation by 90% and deny that radiation causes harm. And that's, frankly, they're still following that procedure 60 years after they started it. Since he went through, when he completed his studies, he was shocked that the United States government basically destroyed all the evidence they had on their studies for the children and women of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Right after the World War II, they took all these tests and took pictures and took names and said they were going to track, I think they said, a huge amount of people. But they destroyed all the evidence for women and children because Dr. John Goffman's studies showed that women and children are the most seriously negatively affected by radiation. So when they found that out, they went through and destroyed all their information.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So he basically studied the people of Hiroshima. He did a 20-year study on his own. At the end of it, that's what got him drummed out of the industry. He created this scientific study that said the United States government, the U.S. military, the International Atomic Agency, the UN, the nuclear industry, they all just deny it. And they're really firm on denying that radiation causes harm. And that's exactly what they're doing to you guys in St. Louis.
Yeah.
I mean, they just...
Exactly.
And they are underreporting. I mean, we can look at the Coldwater Creek page and see that they've underreported it by 90%. Because the Coldwater Creek page has all those plot charts from all those people that became doctors and understood how to create scientific studies, So this is a kind of a shock. So this is your first weekend. I'm hoping that maybe in a month or 2 months you can come on for, even if you just give us a little update for 10 minutes. I'm curious to see how this will go with your families when they're there, once they realize that you really are moved away. And, this is because this is the issue. All of these people may think that they are not negatively affected, but if they have diabetes, they could be negatively affected. It could be caused from that. Diabetes, Dr. Helen Caldicott says diabetes is one of the very first contraindications of being exposed to nuclear radiation. So...
yeah, I don't think people are making that connection.
I don't think so. And we've been trained not to. This is why, I don't beat anybody up. I personally never understood it until a few years ago, how very dangerous this was. And it's only by reading articles that I'm understanding they're just going to sacrifice us all up to the money gods. We're not.
Right.
I mean, isn't this the issue with where you're at, the Westlake landfill is... they're not even talking about the health effects. They're talking about the cost, correct?
Right.
When you guys go to these meetings, they're always talking about cost remediation, salvaging the cost of your homes, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's the big companies. They're all talking about what it's going to cost them to fix it, and we're worried about, well, what about us? What about our health? That's what we're concerned about. But it's always dollar signs with these big companies, and that's all they care about, what it's going to cost them.
Right. And they don't actually look at the health effects. They're not looking at the
No.
people that are getting sick, the children that are dying. I mean, that's the reason why I couldn't give up on this. I saw a picture of a child in a hospital bed on the Westlake Land page, that Westlake landfill page, and the mom wrote on there this was her last photo in a hospital bed. And I was like, how can these people at the EPA look at this and just ignore the needs of these children that they are making sick?
Right.
You know, it is
It's
just
heartbreaking.
It is heartbreaking, and it's heartbreaking for me to see the community of St. Louis being broken up, because now we have people who are conscious and aware. There's a group of you who are saying, wait a minute, we're going to do what we can to move away from here. And then there's a group of people. It's almost like the McCoys and the Hatfields, you know what I mean? It's sort of setting up to put people on opposite sides of the fence on this one, you know?
Right.
So, I don't know. I appreciate your time this morning with us, Ashlee. I really...
No problem.
This has just been a heartbreak for me to watch what's happened. What happens with your child at school? What about the kids at school? I mean, do any of them... They basically at school they just don't talk about it. They're not conscious of the smell. I mean, at school, do they just keep the kids inside?
They don't. No, they don't keep them inside.
What? They don't keep the children inside at the schools? They don't do playgrounds in the gym and inside?
No, not at all. They're aware of the situation, and they kind of, they send out their plan and that they're aware, and they try and push the issue with the community, and they just don't, I guess their hands are tied, and they don't want to maybe raise a red flag with the children, but they go about their business, and they let the kids have their outside play. I don't know how bad it smells at the particular school my son's at, but there are lots of children who notice. I mean, you could tell they're complaining about the smell, or my son complains about the smell sometimes, but I'm not sure if it's stemming from home or being outside of the playground at school. So
wow,
it's hard to say if they talk about it or anything, but I do know that the school's aware.
I'm stunned that the school has not changed their policy to have the playground, have the playtime inside and keep the kids inside as much as possible. They don't even have any of that consideration going on at all?
No.
Man, that makes me angry. That's a crime against humanity. That makes me furious. I should talk to one of the school districts. Now, if you were to talk to the school district managers, they're part of that group of people that think you're being an alarmist, aren't they?
Probably. I mean, they have their plan, and they have their awareness, and they're trying to help, but I don't think are far enough into the know that they want to make such a drastic change like that, like keeping the kids inside or something like that. So I think going to them, they probably would just shrug their shoulders.
Wow. What was the name of the school where your son went? What was that?
My son went to Rose Acres at Pattonville.
Rose Acres. I am shocked about that. I'm actually going to call the school district and talk to them about it. I am stunned. That blows me away that they're making no efforts to protect the children from the smell.
Right.
I mean, because children are the most vulnerable. I mean, even if we just eliminate, we can extrapolate that to even if it's not nuclear pollution, the other pollution that's coming out. That's the other part of this. It's not just the radiation. The other stuff that's burning down there is just as toxic, just as deadly. It's not like you're dealing with just, egg salad sandwiches smell. You know what I mean? It's not like duck poop. You know what I mean? We're talking about serious fused wrap pollution that's on fire.
Right, exactly.
And they're acting as if it's not that big a deal?
Yeah.
Wow. Well, Rose Acres is going to get a little call from Lonnie Clark. I'm just going to at least call them and ask them what their policy is, because I won't call them on the air, but I am going to attempt to talk to them because I'm blown away at the level of denial. I mean,
Right.
it's one thing for your community to be subjected to the denial of the EPA, but for the teachers and the administrators to not huddle together and say, okay, how can we rearrange the schedule so the kids are minimized in their exposure? I mean, that's at least that's the stuff that's under their control that they can do. You know what I
Right.
mean?
I agree.
They do not have to allow the children to just play outside. And frankly, if the kids weren't allowed to play outside all day long, maybe the parents might be more actively engaged in trying to, find a solution to this instead of just saying, "Oh, let's just pretend it's not a big problem."
Right. I mean, I would have thought that sending home the evacuation plan letter would have made some parents aware, raise some red flags, but apparently that wasn't enough for a lot of the community. I know there's people who want out, but they're trapped, but it doesn't seem to me like there's enough. There's not enough people leaving at all, and there's still people buying homes in that area, and they're not being informed. I received a message from somebody telling me that she had just moved her young family there, and nobody told her. Nobody told her that this was happening at all, and she just put her life savings into this house.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Could you imagine? And yet,
not at all.
And yet the real estate agent, isn't that illegal? Doesn't a real estate agent have to tell you things like that? I mean,
I think at this point that this was brought up actually in the Westlake page. Somebody said that at this point it is not something that they have to legally disclose, but it's hopefully I would think that it's going to be. I would hope, because people are investing a lot of money in buying homes in this area, and they're going to be stuck just like the rest of us.
Well, again, it gets back to, I mean, this is the shocking thing about the EPA and all of these things. None of it has any concern for human health or regard for life on our planet. It's only about the bottom line and profit.
Right.
I mean, all they talk about, I've watched the Westlake landfill, they talk about remediating. They're not talking about helping you fix things. They're talking about minimizing the cost. It's
right.
In fact, in that legislation that is now stuck in Congress, I don't think it's been taken out because of Frank Pirelli of New Jersey, which we do need to call him and tell him. They have meetings once a month on the Environment Board, and his wife works for the EPA, so he refuses to vote it out of committee. But, yeah, that's exactly what they are doing, is he's just refusing to vote it out of committee. But part of what they're doing is just the second clause of that legislation. It was shocking. I don't know if you read it, but the very second clause of the legislation calls it a cost savings measure. It's a cost savings measure to not discuss it. That's what they're going to do. It's a cost savings measure. And the cost savings measure is what? They're going to hold nobody responsible. Nobody is going to be held responsible. No person and no corporation. It's in the number 2 clause if you were to pull up that legislation. The cost savings factor is to allow everyone to walk away with this without having to be sued. It's
horrible.
Yes, it is. And so this is why, I get up 3 times a week to talk about this. I mean, it's not been an easy thing, and even me engaging with St. Louis, it's not entirely comfortable, because a lot of people in St. Louis would just rather that I just didn't pursue it. They don't want to have to talk about it because you're getting a lot of blowback from the EPA, from the government officials. They want you just to sit down and shut up.
Right, exactly.
I mean, that's partly what the conflict with you moving away is, right, Ashlee? Is like, your moving makes it seem more important than they feel it should be.
Right. I'm sure that doesn't help their case at all.
No, they don't want people moving away.
Right.
I mean, for goodness sakes, because then that means what now? And how you guys lived in an apartment? You did not live in a house.
We lived in a house. We lived with my in-laws.
Oh, wow. So you guys lived with your in-laws and moved away, and your in-laws are still living there?
Yes.
Oh, my gosh. So they must have really had a heart attack when you guys said you were definitely moving that far away.
Yeah, they weren't thrilled.
Wow.
I
Wow.
think they're more upset that because we took the grandkids and
Oh,
left so
oh,
far, and
yeah.
they didn't understand why we had to go so far. So
I live about an hour and a half from my own grandkids. I understand how hard
hmm
that is to be separated, but to be honest, I would think they should be proud of you because this is a big move. It's not easy to move your little children. You know, the whole
right,
thing is gigantic. It's a gigantic shift away from everything you guys have ever known. It's almost like you're war victims. You
right.
know, like you really are refugees from, I mean, this, do people in St. Louis not get it when you talk to them about it, that this is World War II waste that's on fire?
Depends on the person. Some people they're like, what? What are you talking about? And others are just like, and they shrug their shoulders and they just, whatever. They just shove it under the rug and hope that it goes away. And that's not at all the case. The more you shove it under the rug, the more it's going to build up to be a problem later. And they just don't understand. They just don't want to deal with it. So
Well, what
they'd
did they
rather
say
point
about
their,
the rates of cancer? I mean, part of why this was able to become highlighted has to do specifically with the Facebook page, right? Where all these people got together
right.
and realized they had all these cancers, right? And all these weird diseases going on. So when people are in denial about it and you discuss that, what's their response to that? That that's just a
Just a
coincidence?
coincidence. Yeah.
No. They say that it's just coincidental.
Yeah, coincidence, or maybe it's just fabricated. It's,
Oh, they're
made to
just
look
making
like
it up.
worse than it is. You're right.
Oh, because this isn't done by scientists and, I mean, official scientific. This is just somebody just doing it. So anybody could say anything. So maybe half of what they're saying is not true.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah, something along the line. Yeah.
I'm sorry, Ashlee, that you have to live through this. I really apologize as an American, from one American to another. I feel responsible because you're 28 years old and I'm 60 years old, and all of my life, I, like everyone else in this country, thought that our government was handling this nuclear waste properly. And
Right.
I feel as if I have neglected you because I never paid attention to it. And here you have to disrupt your entire life because we have just allowed the nuclear industry to get completely out of control. And the EPA is just, you know, chained their little neck and attached themselves to the industry themselves. The EPA is not a friend to the American people, in my view.
Not at all.
And in fact, they're not even a friend to the people who work at the EPA. I feel sorry for them. It's like, they have to work for the abuser and lie to people straight to their face.
Right.
That's a difficult position to be in, just to earn some money.
Exactly.
So, I don't know. Well, look, is there anything else that you'd like to share with us about any of this experience of the move that I have not discussed with you?
I just think that I hope that, my moving will put some urgency in it. Maybe it'll be an example, lead by example, basically, help some other people get out. And it's hard to move away from somewhere you've lived your entire life and always dreamed of raising your children to somewhere you never had even heard of until a few years ago. So it's been rough, but I'm hoping that it will be for the best interest of my children, but I hope that other people follow suit too. And that's basically what I'm hoping to achieve here.
Yeah, well, I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you for being a leader because it is up to us. This is the thing about this. It's on our watch. I'm actually a little stunned that you only found out about this about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, because this fire was on, they found out about it 5 years ago.
Right.
And that means that in your area, the local news was not covering it at all until...
No, not at all.
And how did you find out about it?
Facebook.
Just on Facebook.
Just
that
Facebook.
was it. Just Facebook.
Yep, that was it.
Not the news covering it, not the discussion of it, just Facebook.
Nope.
Now, when you found out about it on Facebook, was the smell already happening?
Yes.
So what would you, before the Facebook page, what do you think that was? Just the landfill page smell?
At first, we thought maybe it was a sewer. And then we got word, it's the landfill. And I'm like, what landfill? I didn't even know there was a landfill. So That was news to me. And then I looked on Facebook, and people were starting to ask questions. What does that smell? And then the word came out. It's a landfill. It's on fire. It's nuclear waste. And that was it. Found out on Facebook. And it wasn't until a long time after that that the news even started covering it.
Wow. So you're telling me that the news didn't even start covering it until the last year and a half or so?
Yeah, they didn't start covering it until the citizens started putting up a fight and trying to raise awareness.
Yeah,
so we had to
18,000
kind of
people
find
went
out.
to Facebook, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Which is a real shame. You have to rely on Facebook for something that serious.
Well, especially considering that Facebook is just a straight shot. You know, they feed us, they sell our information to the advertisers, and then they feed all our information to the government. You know what I mean? So
Right.
Nothing's private in any respect. I mean, Facebook, It's kind of like a love-hate thing. It's a way that we can connect at least, but going
Right.
there, we know that we're exposing ourselves to absolute intrusion.
Right.
Without regard to human life. I mean, think about this. This Facebook page, somebody has been managing the Facebook page for the last however long it started. No one there is even concerned. Like there's no momentum at the top where they have all these concerns. It's just complete disregard for human life. I mean, to be honest, I'm grateful for Facebook, but it really makes me sick because there's no regard for human life whatsoever there. So.
No.
Well, look, Ashlee, I will let you go. I really appreciate you taking this time. And you're at work, right? So you're taking your time out of your work to share this story with us. I really appreciate that.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm proud of you. Like I said earlier at the top of the show, you are really the first family that I've met that actually said, you know what, we're taking our children and leaving. And my hat is off to you. I am proud of you. If there is anything that you ever need or we can help support you in any way, please do reach out to us because we will do all we can to help you. You know?
Thank you, and I hope there's more families out there that you'll be encountering hopefully soon.
You know what you should do? Maybe this is an idea. Maybe you should start a Facebook page that says Families Who Fled St. Louis or something like that. You know what I mean? Escaping nuclear pollution, and maybe just call it Escaping Nuclear Pollution. That way anybody from all these different communities that are being polluted can actually join up, and maybe I should do that, Escaping Nuclear Pollution. And then people can just randomly start it. So,
yeah.
Well, I hope that you are the leader on this one, and we really definitely need to have enough people move away so that they will give us the truth and start telling us the facts. So,
absolutely.
I really appreciate your time with this, Ashlee. This is just so awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you again.
Okay. So we have about a minute and a half left, folks. I want to thank you for joining us with the Age of Fission radio show. Please do go to the Westlake Landfill Facebook page. Join it and take a look at it. There are always very excellent updates. Today there is an update on the Westlake Landfill update. It's a YouTube video that came out. Looks like a news reporting. As we just talked about, there's minimal news reporting, but we ought to take it now. And then there is a thing about impeachment. They're talking about impeachment for people who are just ignoring this problem. So this is a serious crisis going on in St. Louis, and it is affecting not just St. Louis, it's affecting the entire South because everybody east and south of that is downwind of massive amounts of nuclear pollution. So it's really important for all of us to be actively engaged on this. And I am not going to stop reporting on the Westlake landfill or on the St. Louis issue pollution because it's up to us. It's on our watch. So put your courage feet on and take action any way that you can. Let's get the truth out about the lies of the nuclear pollution. And we will talk to you guys on Wednesday. Well, thank you for joining us.